The city and the stuff that's been done has not been followed through. You know, and as a counselor, it's up to the people of Oakridge that we speak for. It's not really up to me. I've only one vote as a counselor. And what I'm seeing in our town, I don't like what I'm seeing. It's pretty sad. And do there need to be new ordinances? There's a lot of ordinances now. If everybody looks at all the laws and abides by the laws that we already have, it's pretty sure it can be done. So I think we should do with what we got, and we shouldn't put a bunch more stuff in the charter and stuff. It needs to be changed, but it's up to the whole body to do it and the people of Oakridge. Thank you.
Thank you. Would you repeat the question, please?
So it says, would you agree to pass a law amendment by law to or enforce all existing laws every time as applicable?
Thank you. Before I answer that question, I'd like to thank the organizers who put this together this evening. A lot of work, I'm sure, went into this, and I appreciate that. I would agree most with Councilor Holston. No, I would not want to see more laws. I would want to see enforcement of the ordinances and laws we already have. I think it's important to distinguish between criminal conduct and civil conduct. So we're talking about a speeding ticket, we're talking about misappropriation of city funds. There's a difference. And I think as a counselor, it's incumbent upon any counselor to understand the difference. If there's malfeasance in office, I think that needs to be examined, reviewed. If we're talking about people driving through town too fast, then that's not our job. Thank you.
I believe that the laws that we have existing currently should be enforced, and I think a lot of our laws currently have not been. And that includes our ordinances. I've seen that happen a lot here in Oakridge on who gets the ordinance put against them and who don't. And I feel that it needs to change in those situations. The speeding here in town, I think that needs to be taken care of too, and it hasn't been recently. And I agree with the rest of the people here about the laws, the ones who don't want to impose new ones, that we should work with the ones we already have and enforce the ones currently. There are some changes to the ordinance on our charter that need to be changed. That's where I would take.
Hopefully you can hear me. So back to the question with how it was written.
Bobbie, closer.
I'm sorry, I have a low voice. I worked for DOJ for 17 years doing legal work, so I've been on a lot of different committees and different work groups that had to do with legislative changes, adjusting laws, applying them to the work we were doing, and how that mattered and where it mattered, and what was done right and what was done wrong and what needed to change. So that's some of the background experience I have. It has to do with laws, but in general, for enforcing the laws here within our city, I think it has to be within reason. It depends on the situation and the circumstances. So for example, you have neighbors that consistently have obnoxious growth in their yard, and you're always complaining to the city. You don't feel like they're doing anything about it. And I would think, yeah, go do something, issue a citation. But then if you step back and look at the situation, maybe it's a senior in our community that is living on limited income, maybe lost a spouse a couple years ago, doesn't have the money or the ability to take care of her yard. So why would you want to issue a citation that's just going to create or make it a more difficult situation for her? So maybe, the answer isn't always enforcing the laws, but looking for resources for our community. So that's, when I talk about enforcing within reason, that's what I mean. Although, if it's something serious, absolutely enforce it as best you can.
30 seconds.
Sorry. So let me see, I did write, and another thing that I do believe is that our city needs to look at the charter and review it and make sure that we comply with state and federal laws. I think that's important. Not write completely new laws, but to make sure that it's in compliance with other laws that apply to what goes on here. And that's all. Thank you.
At first blush, hearing the question, my first thought that came to mind is that sounds very redundant. Why would we make one law to enforce all other laws? It seems to me that we need to pay more attention to each individual law and enforce them on an individual basis. I think what Bobbie was saying, some of them, like the obnoxious weeds, it's not going to make sense to charge an elderly person on a fixed income. However, there is a discrimination factor there. We can't enforce the law on one person and not on the other. So as far as making one law to enforce us to follow through with all the other laws, I can't really say that I would support that. It just seems really redundant to me. I agree mostly with what Councilor Carl said. This made most sense to me.
So I think that we should enforce the current laws that we have, and we should review them to see how applicable they still are. Some of them have been on the books for a number of years. Federal, state, county regulations change probably on a quicker basis than we do a review of our current statutes. So I believe that as a council member, I've sworn an oath to uphold the charter, the Constitution of the state, and the Constitution of the United States. So I believe that we should enforce everything that we have on the books, and we should take a look and find gaps and repair those gaps or modify the charter as needed in order to provide a more cohesive foundation for enforcement and other actions.
Okay, I think to ease things, we'll start with you coming back this way. And first of all, I was neglectful here. Let's have everybody